Slums in North Korea do not resemble the typical impoverished districts known from other parts of the world. They are rather dispersed settlements of makeshift dwellings and stalls created by the economic crisis and by rationing. The emergence of these enclaves is linked to the sharp contraction of the state supply system after the disasters of the 1990s, which forced residents to create their own supply and sales channels outside official distribution. Around larger cities, Jangmadang markets developed, where local communities trade agricultural produce, clothing, and imported trinkets, and this mechanism became the basis of survival for many families deprived of a steady allotment. Slum areas are often situated on the peripheries of major construction projects, or where the state relocates populations to free up central land for representative investments and urban showcase projects. Unlike typical slums defined by mass overcrowding, some North Korean settlements are characterized by dispersed buildings, which results from mountainous terrain and a long-standing lack of mechanization in construction. Sanitary conditions vary widely. Some houses have access to basic infrastructure, but many households use communal water points, makeshift latrines, and improvised drainage systems. The lack of a reliable income source means that slum residents are heavily dependent on informal trade, seasonal work, and shipments from China, which feed the market with small batches of goods and cash liquidity. Women play a key role in the economy of these areas, running stalls, processing food, and organizing exchange chains, which has changed traditional gender roles and brought new forms of economic independence. Satellite images reveal clusters of makeshift roofs and disorderly buildings right next to representative districts, intensifying the contrast between elite projects and the real poverty of the local population. The condition of buildings is unstable. Many structures are simple frames of wood, corrugated metal, and reclaimed brick, and repairs are carried out by hand or by local craftsmen operating outside the official service system. The lack of access to steady fuel and electricity means that heating and cooking are done on improvised stoves and generators, increasing the risk of fires and smoke-related health problems. The public housing system favors privileged groups, so people of lower social status often have to accept peripheral locations and limited access to municipal services. A parallel service economy operates in slums, including repairs, laundries, the production of simple tools and textile alterations, which respond to local demand and bypass formal supply chains. Education in these areas is often fragmentary. Schools are few, and access to textbooks and teaching materials is frequently limited by insufficient funding and selective allocation policies. Health problems are exacerbated by shortages of medicines, limited medical equipment, and the remoteness of clinics, resulting in longer waits for assistance and higher mortality in emergencies. The Jangmadang network, although formally restricted, has become a source of supply and employment. Stalls there can be the only way to obtain basic items and goods imported from China. Smuggling and the creation of external channels are common. Small parcels, smuggled bicycles, and electronics cross borders, and this trade drives local markets and sustains consumption in neglected areas. Authorities' responses to slums range from restricting market activity to occasional evictions and showcase revitalizations, keeping residents in a state of uncertainty and legal instability. Young people often migrate to cities in search of work but encounter barriers related to the allocation system and a lack of documentation, leading to the formation of semi-permanent workers' settlements. Daily life is characterized by improvisation, drying grain by the roads, shelters made of tarpaulins, collective work on construction and repairs, and reciprocal loans of seeds or fuel. Environmental problems such as soil erosion, seasonal floods, and tree felling for fuel further weaken households' livelihoods and cause rapid degradation of living areas. Households often combine several income sources, selling surplus agricultural produce, handicrafts, small transport services, and work in the informal production sector for larger entities. Social relations are strong. Neighbors exchange help, organize joint work, and share resources and skills, which allows them to survive the most demanding months in the annual cycle of labor and crises. Urban agriculture and home plots are crucial. Balconies, small patches of land, and community gardens supply fresh vegetables and improve food security for families affected by shortages. Photovoltaic installations appear sporadically as a grassroots response to the lack of standard energy. Even a single rooftop panel can improve comfort, charge phones, and power a small household refrigerator. Law enforcement and monitoring maintain strict oversight of peri-urban areas, limiting vendors' freedom and sometimes leading to confiscations of goods and administrative penalties. On the outskirts, children can be seen doing simple auxiliary tasks in the fields and at stalls, which limits their access to formal education and affects their development prospects and later employment opportunities in adulthood. Officials overseeing stalls sometimes demand fees and bribes, which shifts the cost burden onto the poorest vendors and discourages formalization, keeping the areas in a semi-legal economic zone.